Beep. You gotta talk, you gotta use words.
I don't want to. I'm crusty today, Clayton. Everything's setting me off. But with that said, welcome to our YouTube channel. We have a Mark III VR Turbo, as you can see, probably in the thumbnail and in the video footage. I'm getting to the point of wrapping it up right now, but you're gonna see in the video. But I don't think at the beginning of when I started recording with this thing, I talked about what this car has in it. So it's a Headspacer 12 valve VR6, ARP studs. It has a set of 268 cams, basically eBay exhaust manifold, but most of them for this car are very similar to each other. Homemade short runner intake manifold. It has the 40-pound or 42-pound green top or green giant, whatever injectors they're called. Pretty standard when C2 used to do software for these. The turbo is a Rev 9 power.
Uh-oh, I was gonna bring out the
I
device,
gotta bring out
the look-up device.
I gotta bring out the device. It's a Rev 9 7268. And that would typically be a very massive turbo based on the turbine and compressor wheel. However, it's like a 600 horsepower turbo in this brand. The car has basically been built for a long time. He switched it over to Fueltech. That's another thing that's done to it. It's on a Fueltech FT550. I may talk about some of the stuff in the video, but I wanted to make sure I covered the gist of it before we get into it. It has a 3-inch exhaust, intercooler that looks like it's been in a fire, but it just was painted black and has now just lived its life getting corroded.
It looks as crusty as you.
It's not that crusty, I promise you. That is not as crusty as me. There looks like there were some holes in it that they patched up. Couple of things before it came here. I can't remember what fuel pump is in it. He had a stock fuel pump in it. I wanted it changed out before it got here. He changed out the fuel pressure regulator as well. There's definitely a handful of things I would change on it, but any sort of power in a Mark III, they're very light cars, is going to be a fun time. I don't think he's ever had it dynoed when it was on the old software and his old setup, but I have an idea what it should make. I already know what it makes, actually. But let's get into the video, see how we got to here.
The other part, adding something in.
What?
This car was off the road for like a few years, right? You said that or no?
Yeah, the owner called me pretty much every spring for the last like 3 or 4 years, asking if I could take a look at it and tune it. And it finally made it here.
So guess what?
He got fed up with it, and he brought it here, and here it is on the dyno.
And that being said, any power is better than no power, which it was making. So.
Exactly, and that's exactly what he said. He's like, the power doesn't really matter. I want to be able to drive the thing again. So that's what we're set up to do. All right, time to work on this Mark III VR Turbo. Probably showed you a little bit of it in the last video. The owner brought it here. It barely runs. Like when I say barely runs, it's definitely only on a few cylinders, or the cam sync is off, or we don't know exactly what's going on with it at this point. However, I have gone through and spent some time checking the basics, going through, making sure the timing is synced with the ECU, making sure this has like a factory style coil in it, so those are infamous for being problems as well. Making sure that all tested out fine. It looks like it's coming down to a wiring issue at this point. However, we'll show you kind of how it runs right now. I at least have it running enough to be able to log some stuff and make sure things are syncing like they're supposed to be and stuff, but it's not right. It's not happy, that's for sure. So, Robbie? So for those that know VRs, they're not supposed to sound like this. It's definitely down a hole or two all the injectors test out fine, all the coils test out fine. We got to do a little bit more research, but it's awfully rich no matter how much fuel I take out of it, so we got some things to do with this. I'm just realizing, watching the video, Clayton had already edited, I have to add this in, that we never discussed what the major issue was with this thing before getting it on the dyno. As you would have seen, it was barely running when it got here. It was a real struggle to even get it into the shop running on its own. After doing extensive troubleshooting, going through everything, all the coils fired, all the injectors fired, all of that seemed correct, but there was something quite not right with the timing. It just seemed like the timing was wrong, So we did all the regular timing checks, base timing, mechanical timing checks, all of that. What ended up being the issue was the stock coil was wired incorrectly. So only 2 cylinders were firing when they should have been. The other 2 coils were flopped. So 4 cylinders were firing incorrectly, which just really ended up dumping a bunch of fuel down into the cylinders, into the oil basically. So although we got it running on the 2 cylinders to at least do a bunch of troubleshooting, once we got into the wiring side of things, we quickly realized that those were wired incorrectly. Once we swapped those wires and all 6 cylinders were firing correctly, it ran obviously a lot better and got us to this point, which is getting it on the dyno, trying to run it. It's just one of those things that come up, trying to wire into stuff, especially if you're not super experienced with it. And even when you are experienced with it, things happen, mistakes can take place, and if you're trying to get somebody to do remote tuning or something like that, or even trying to help you answer some questions, if it's not wired right, it's never going to work. So it's just one of those scenarios where this car needed a second set of eyes to go over it, see what was the issue. We found it, the issues are resolved, we're ready to start dynoing this thing. So let's get back to it. Okay, before we get started with this VR, before it goes on the dyno, it's warmed up, and we're going to just do a quick compression test on it to make sure that it's at least semi-healthy. It ran C2 software for a long time, and then he switched over to Fueltech and made some changes. So we just want to give a little bit of a health check before we get going. First 2 checked out. VRs, they like to get picked on the back 2 cylinders. Number 1's usually okay, but 3 and 5 are typically getting beat on. So let's see what number 3 has to say. Okay? Yep. They're all pretty close. Typical though, 3 and 5 are a little bit lower, but they're all within spec, so we're good to kind of proceed with this thing. There is a pretty heavy lifter tick on cold start that stays for a while, so the lifters are due for a change or a refresh. But once they come up to temp, it does take a while, but the tick goes away. So I think we're ready to do a little bit more fine tuning for idle and stuff like that, and then we'll get it on the dyno and see if we can't make at least a bit of power with this thing. On there, we're having problems with getting the tag signal, but that was the first run to about 6,800. Did 270 wheel, and looking at the last few logs, boost was right around 10 pounds, I think. It did spike up towards the end a little bit, so green around there. So maybe it made a little bit more, but I'll look. Decent first start. Took me a while to get to here, but look at the logs. Redo. Getting close to wrapping it up, but I want to try to get a plug read on it. These are the plugs that were in it from the beginning when it was super rich, and after I had gotten it running, trying to do a bunch of tuning and stuff on it. But the problem is, hopefully that's in focus, as we probably talked about, there's a lot of oil going through this thing. And this gets wiped up constantly, and I did put a restrictor in it to try to combat some of the oil barfing through it, but as you can see, this is just oil going into the charge piping and out the exhaust, so it's really hard to read a plug. So I'm going to put a fresh plug in it, do one rip on it just to see where timing is, and make sure that it's good and safe. I know it's good and safe, but I want to make sure actually to see if we can actually put some more timing in it. So that's what's next. Okay, results after the plug swap. Plugs look a lot better now that they're fresh set, or this is a fresh one anyways. Timing is still pretty conservative on it, but as mentioned, as mentioned many times on this channel, we run 91 octane here, and it's trash, and it's very hard on VR pistons. I've had plenty of VRs in here that people have built locally that have ruined the ringlands, getting too aggressive on timing and boost. So we're treading lightly, especially with the fact that the turbo is puking a bunch of oil in it, which also kills octane. But 300 wheel horsepower, or I think we're around 310. Last couple of runs, I think we're 310 wheel on a Mark III is going to be a very fun time. It probably made similar power before, I think, when it was on a C2 software, depending on how much boost it was. He never had a boost controller on it, and the gate was only 10 pounds. So maybe it lived its life at 10 pounds. I don't know. If it did, then it is making more horsepower than it was before. But it really needs a new turbo. The thing's puking quite a bit, but that's a minor change at this point. Most of the tune is wrapped up. We're probably going to do 1 or 2 more runs just so I can do a little bit more cleanup. I may play with timing a little bit more based on the plug read. But we're getting close to the end of this thing. Let's see if any changes make any difference on it. Not really expecting much difference in power. Just trying to clean up fueling a little bit. And this might wrap it up, honestly. So it's had a little bit of time to cool down. Well, we let it warm back up again, but I think I'm ready to go after it. Same boost level, clean up fuel, that's pretty much it. So let's see what this one brings to the table. And that's where she's gonna live, Clayton. Last 3 runs were 310, 310, 310, 310. I've just been trying to clean it up a little tiny bit here and there. What it needs is a turbo.
Yeah.
Because it's not helping the octane. It's not helping that it's not efficient. He knew that, and I knew that going into this. These cheap turbos, I'm just going to open this log here. These cheap turbos, sorry, I got distracted. 1 second. These cheap turbos, the internet makes them seem like they're amazing. And in some cases, guys have had success with them. The problem with them, they make power when they're not leaking oil, but they don't make power for long. That's generally what we see. Yep, they'll make power, but maybe a couple 100 kilometers in some cases, maybe a couple thousand. That's where the problem happens. So if you got a complex turbo kit, or the turbo's really hard to get to, do yourself a favor and don't go down this path, because you'll be fighting to get rusty bolts off, or being in a very crappy spot to try to get a turbo on. These ones aren't too bad. Some of the Volkswagens, the turbo location's terrible on them on the turbo kits, and it's really tough. So to put a turbo on a car, fight with it, get all the things working properly, and then, you know, drive it for a couple of weekends, and then the turbo needs to be chucked in the garbage because it's no good. This one, power-wise, typically on our pump gas here, we generally shoot for 300 to 350 wheel. You'll see some of the old 12L stuff that we've done that I know the setup very well, that will push them a little bit further when they got really good intercoolers and stuff. Maybe a little bit of water mats will make 400 wheel. I was expecting, before I'd even seen the car, that it really should make 300 to 350 wheel based on where I felt comfortable with it. It's doing basically that, 310. It's a little shy of where I think it should be at this boost level, but I'm not gonna, he just wants to drive the car. I'm not gonna get super aggressive with timing, and especially if he's gonna have to put a turbo on it because he's puking. Clayton probably has a little bit of B-roll of that. But it's gonna need a new turbo anyways, and probably need a touch up on the tune. I don't know if I had filmed any of that. When it came here, it didn't have a boost solenoid on it. It was just straight on gate. The first few runs that we did, once I could do a full wide open throttle run, I think it made around 270 wheel. Probably see it in the video. But we wired in a 3-port Mac valve just to give us a little bit more boost. And that's one thing that's a bit different with Fueltech software compared to most standalone. Fueltech is basically designed for drag racing. Yes, you can run it on cars, but like when it gets into the strategies of boost control and stuff like that, it's primarily focused on drag racing. So a lot of their documentation and everything for boost control, it's their cars running CO2. They want you to have an exhaust pressure sensor which we don't have on this car, so I just wired in as a 3-port generic output, and I did boost by RPM. So
Was it an exhaust pressure sensor or a wastegate pressure sensor?
well,
They said wastegate for
it's
me,
just a
same.
pressure sensor
Okay.
that they put on the wastegate. I don't know what I just said there, but it's a pressure sensor that they want on the wastegate.
Okay.
So I mentioned the last few runs were 310, 310, 310. The last run that we just did with Clayton is 306. The main thing I was trying to do with these few runs is you'll see, like on the orange one, there's a big dip in the center here. Oops, I don't know what I just did. Big dip. I was trying to get rid of that stuff, so the last run was a bit smoother, less bigger dips. So yeah, if it comes back, and you guys might see it on the channel again if he puts a new turbo on it, it has potential to make more power for sure. A lot of the VR guys are running like, oh, it's making no power. Again, 91 octane, turbo's on its way out, is out really. It's still functioning, but I was just showing Clayton that. The oil that you would see in the video in the turbo, that's after a run. During the run, all of that oil is going into the charge pipe, going into the intercooler. So it's a problem, but it's made power, it's tuned, it starts and runs. When it came here, it didn't do any of that. And the turbo's been taken out. As you will see in the video, we put a turbocharger on this. Let's see how it does. So we got the turbos on the bench. Clearly done with that one. New turbo going on. And this is here. We have fixed one problem and caused another problem. We are now out of fuel. But for a comparison, essentially the same boost. And keep in mind, it's running out of fuel up top.
You didn't say that yet.
I did say that, didn't I?
No, you said we had one problem and another.
Oh, it's out of fuel. I thought I did just say it's out of fuel. It's out of fuel. But turbo for turbo, same boost level. It's gained 40 to 50 wheel horsepower throughout the whole entire rev range, even at 4,000 RPM. I did nothing with timing, nothing at all. And this is the difference that it's making. Like here, 136, that's torque actually. So here, 104 horsepower to 141 horsepower.
Damn.
It's the whole range. I mean, you can see it. 40 to 50 wheel horsepower throughout the whole thing. It's unfortunate that we're out of fuel because there.
By out of fuel, you want to explain to people out of fuel? Some people might not get that. Not physically out of fuel.
Well,
like
yeah,
the tank's not empty.
The tank is not empty, although he does not have fuel gauge set up in this, so it's very easily ran out of fuel. It's been sitting here idling, and then I mess around with it for an hour trying to figure out why it's not doing what it should be doing. It's because it's running out of fuel.
Okay, well.
But the fueling issues, it is I mentioned earlier, I think they're 440cc injectors on this fuel. With the bit of timing that I had, like more timing will add more horsepower, but we're limited on the timing because of the 91 octane that we're running. So could these injectors make some more horsepower? Yes, on better fuel with just advancing the timing, it will make more horsepower. But we are limited on the fuel and octane. So the injectors themselves are basically maxed out. I bumped up the fuel pressure from 3 bar to 4 bar, which is 58 psi, and we gained a little bit out of a little bit of headroom out of the injectors with it, but we're maxed out. So it's unfortunate because we put a new turbo on it, obviously, trying to make some more jam, and now we just run into the next limitation.
One that's not leaky.
No, and it was a direct swap, so it swapped over very quickly. It's a Pulsar GTX 3582, great turbo setup for this application. But we're out of fuel, and it's crappy because I probably would have chucked also a little bit more boost at it and may have gotten after the timing a little bit more, but the fact of the matter is that the injectors are maxed. I think the last run they were 123%, and if you know anything about percentage, 100% is maximum, and we're over that. So this is where it's going to end off. The good thing is that the turbo's not smoking anymore. It's not piling a bunch of oil into the system. Just swapping over the turbo. In fact, it was so much more efficient that the first run I tried to do on it with the duty cycle and everything the way it was, it probably would have went to 19, 20 pounds.
This is a smaller turbo, right, than what he had on it?
No, well, technically on paper, yes, but they're only rated those turbos for like 600 horsepower, I think, that Rev 9 turbo.
Yeah.
Where this one, I think, is rated for like 800 or something like that. So
awesome.
It's a bigger turbo. But where I was going, the duty cycle itself, I had to change it all and pull duty cycle out of it because it just wants to make boost way better. As you can see, what it's making boost down here. So 345, I would say realistically, if we had some room on the injectors, I'm babbling here. If we had some room on the injectors and fuel pump, we probably would see anywhere from 360, maybe up to 400 if I spent some time with it. But I'm limited again. The turbo was the limitation, and now we're in the fueling. It's part of the, I've said this on the channel before, if you're building a turbo car, overfuel it. Overfuel it, because half the cars I've built myself, I didn't do that, and I end up putting 4 different fuel systems in it. Kayla's car, this is probably...
I already upgraded it without it even being done. Twice, I think.
Okay, so it's just this one thing to learn for guys following along, planning on doing some of this stuff themselves. Overfuel the setup. Big pumps, lines, injectors, fuel pressure regulator to handle it, so that you do stuff like this, we just don't have the limitations, because there's nothing worse than going down this path or wanting a little bit more horsepower and having to put more money into injectors. And the one thing that's crazy about all this stuff, fuel pumps and injectors, for example, the pricing is very similar no matter what size you go with. If you go really big fuel pump, yeah, they can be really expensive. But now some of the in-tank pumps are so cheap that you can get an 800 horsepower pump or 1500 cc injectors for basically the cost of what 400 cc injectors are. The difference in price is very minimal. Overfuel your setup. I think I'm done with this one. We're going to do a little bit more drivability. We were already done the video, actually, completely.
In outro, everything.
The whole thing was done, and then last minute, the owner was like, you got a turbo there, put a turbo on it. So we did. It's making a lot more power. It's going to be a lot more friendlier to drive. Not really friendlier. It's going to tear the tires off probably earlier. A lot more fun to drive. And there's a whole lot more potential in it. So
in the last outro, we talked about the reason why, like, if the old turbo was like oily, it's blowing oil by.
Yeah, I did.
Affecting
so
octane and stuff. I just don't know if you covered any of that.
I don't know if I did either. But the oil can
killing
kill octane, and it's basically pushing, as you would have seen in the video, there was all kinds of oil in the compressor housing. That's pushing oil in through the whole system. So this is just the nature of these cheaper turbos. They can make horsepower. Whether I said this in the video already or not, I don't know, because we're redoing half of this. The problem with the cheap turbos, eBay, Amazon, Rev9, whatever, is the internet shows that they can make horsepower, and some guys have had success with them. The problem is they just don't last. So yeah, maybe this turbo, brand new. He does have a few thousand kilometers on it. I did verify that with him, but the problem is they just don't last. So if you're building a turbo kit and the turbo's really hard to get to, and you put a turbo on it that lasts 200 kilometers, it's just a complete waste of time. I've done it myself. I've had turbos literally last 100 to 200 kilometers, and then they start puking oil. They're just trashy. Sometimes you win, most of the times you lose. Spend a little bit more money, get a turbocharger. This is a perfect example. It's way more efficient. It made way more power, way easier. So that's it. I'm done talking. Is there anything else I forgot, Clayton, that you wanted to add in?
Don't know. We'll know when this outro is done if we have to redo it.
Thanks for everybody that followed along. I think I'd ask people to follow us in our last video. We do really appreciate it. We did see a spike in new subscribers, so thank you, everybody. We do have some really cool stuff coming. Do I let the cat out of the bag now? We started filming for a 07K hoopty. We're gonna send a stock engine to the moon. Big turbo, standalone. We're gonna do basically the same thing that we did with the 1AT hoopty.
We're gonna do a live stream on that one?
We might do, depending on how it all goes, but we've already started working on that car and we've already started filming that content. We have content coming up of Clayton's Mark 1 1AT. This is for the 1AT owners right now. And also for 1AT stuff, there's a silver GTI I bought, Mark 4 GTI, that we're gonna do a whole bunch of standalone stuff with. I think I'm gonna put nitrous on it. We're gonna be done with it. So lots to come. Bye.